warm welcome to a new episode of Leaders of Tomorrow Season 10. I'm Ritwika Gupta. Tonight we have two distinct conversations lined up. We are chatting leadership and more with renowned author Bill George. And in the second segment, we are putting the spotlight on Apna, a professional networking platform and one of the youngest unicorns in India. Let's get started. My first conversation tonight is with Bill George, who recently launched his new book, True North, the Emerging Business Leader Edition. The book is meant for emerging leaders of the next generations and encapsulates excerpts of business leaders like Mark Zuckerberg, Satya Nadella, Indra Nooyi, among others. I'll be chatting with Bill tonight about the motivation behind this new book and what it takes to be a leader of tomorrow. Listen in. Bill, thank you so much for joining us tonight on Leaders of Tomorrow. I want to begin by talking about leadership. The definition of leadership has evolved over the past decade. It's probably taken a more collaborative, people-oriented approach. Tell me, what does leadership mean to you and what does it really entail today?
Leadership is being who you are and inspiring people to reach their full potential. That's been my North Star, my mission for about the last 40 years. I think leaders really comes down to your character and the relationships you build with other people. So great leaders know how to inspire people, build relationships, and they lead with character, commitment to their moral values.
Right, well, the last 2 years have really thrown unexpected challenges at us across the world and across industries. Taking cues from your personal observations, what do you think is the kind of leadership that's required during a crisis? In other words, what should a leader or a CXO of a company keep in mind when dealing with unprecedented challenges and problems?
We have had multiple intersecting crises right now that call for a new generation of leaders. We've had crises before. Surely we've had recessions. We had the attack on the World Trade Centers in 2001, September 11th. We had the global financial meltdown. But the COVID crisis affected every single person in the world, one way or another. Either they got it or didn't get it, but it affected whether they went to work or didn't go to work, whether they were shut down. And it had a huge psychological impact on people. Now, on top of that, when people are feeling tired and worn out, we have multiple intersecting crises like a pending recession, like the war in Russia's attack on Ukraine. We haven't seen anything like this on such a broad scale since 1945. That's 77 years. We have a supply chain shortage. Perhaps most of all, we have what's called the Great Resignation. We have a lot of people leaving their jobs. In the United States alone, we have 11 million unfilled jobs, 5 million unemployed persons. So it takes a different kind of leader to lead in crisis. Someone that's used to leading in stable times may not be able to adapt to leading in crises like the leaders we need today. That's why we need a new generation of leaders to step up and take charge. Well, the leaders we need today have to be authentic and genuine. In the past, we had a lot of powerful, frankly, they're mostly in the United States, mostly white males. That has changed dramatically, and they led with a command and control style that they maybe picked up in the military from their experiences. But that won't fly today. The younger leaders, younger people expect leaders to lead with their hearts as well as their head. It's not sufficient to just be the smartest person in the room. We've put that focus on, and we've seen it doesn't work. We need leaders who lead with their hearts, and by the heart, I mean they have to lead with passion. Passion for the work, for the mission of their organization. They have to have compassion for the people they're serving. If you don't have compassion for the people you're serving, in Medtronic, we had great compassion for the patient we're serving. But that can be true in any field. It can be true of a banker. It can be true of somebody in the tech field. They also have to have empathy for the people they're working with, because people are going through very tough times. And if you don't have empathy as a leader, people are not going to want to be engaging with you. And finally, leaders today, because of the crises you asked about, have to have courage to transform their organization, transform their business, and adapt to the new needs of today's people, today's customers, and particularly today's employees, who really want to find meaning in their work.
Sure. Well, on that note, tell us about your new book, True North. What was the motivation behind it, and what can a reader expect in the book?
Well, True North is who you are. I wrote this book, the Emerging Leader Edition, because I think we need a new generation of leaders to step up and take charge. The baby boomers have been in control for 30 years with more of a power-based style of leadership. We need empowering leaders today, the Gen Xers, Millennials, and Gen Zs. And I wrote the book to try to inspire people to take the leadership now. And I think the baby boomers can become mentors and guides to younger leaders. But now is the time for leaders that know how to lead in crises, as you asked before, and lead with their hearts as well as their head, that they can inspire people. And so my book is aimed at helping them become authentic leaders who follow their true north.
Bill, your book is based on research and first-person interviews with today's top leaders. If you could share some of the key takeaways from your interactions with some of these big names in the corporate world, can you perhaps draw a parallel, or are there some similarities you can talk about?
Well, the leaders we chose to quote in the book, and we try to let their actual words come through, I believe are all authentic leaders. There are some who occasionally may get off track, but basically they're very authentic leaders, and they have proven that they can lead in an authentic way. They can be real, they can be genuine. It's only that's how they get through very difficult times. So some of the leaders that we picked out here that I really have great admiration for. Someone like Indra Nooyi, who got to know well when she was leading PepsiCo, and she set a whole new standard for nutrition and trying to bring healthy foods and beverages to people. And she got some criticism for that. In fact, one activist tried to come in and break up the company, and I worked with her closely in that period, and yet she had the tenacity and the courage to stay true to what she believed and was successful in warding him off. That's just one example. Another example of a truly great leader in the United States, I say, is find a leader as anyone in the world today in business, and that's Satya Nadella, who has totally transformed Microsoft from a company that was going the wrong way under Steve Ballmer. And Satya took over the company as CEO in 2014. He's a very humble person, very modest, had a computer science background. But you know what? He brought a sense of empathy to this company that had been very arrogant. They had been, as he said, we thought we were know-it-alls, God's gift to creation. And he had to transform that whole company into learn-it-alls, into people who had empathy and compassion. He said, basically, if you don't have that, you shouldn't work here. And I think we've seen the results as he plunged into new businesses and took on the cloud and social media. But I think more important is humanity. And a lot of that came from his own upbringing, and particularly his experience in his own family. A great sad situation. His son, Zane, was born with cerebral palsy. And I think that helped Satya become much more empathetic to other people and the difficulties they faced. Sadly, Zane passed away earlier this year. But that really had a huge impact. That was the crucible that had the greatest impact on Satya, and one of the reasons he's emerged as such a great leader. And you can see it in the results of Microsoft and how they're doing. Now I think it's the second most valuable company in the United States.
That's very interesting. Now, as we wrap up this conversation, tell me, in your opinion, what does it take to be a successful leader of tomorrow?
Well, my advice to any leaders, particularly young leaders, is care about your people. I think leaders today have to think more like coaches than they do directors. In the past, they told you what to do, they measured you for it, they evaluated. That's not today's way. Today's way would be much more of a coach. And we actually created this acronym. The first C stands for care. You have to care about people. They won't respond, and they won't give you their whole selves, their hearts, until they know you care about them. And then you want to organize people to around their sweet spot, which their sweet spot is made up of the areas where they have the greatest motivations, where they're passionately motivated. At the same time, they're playing to their strengths, not their weaknesses. And if you get everyone in those positions, then you align them around a common set of values and a common purpose or mission. And that alignment is critical. But good coaches, as you know, whether you're talking in athletics or in business, challenge people. They challenge people to do their best because they're really trying to help them become better leaders and better people. And so this is nothing soft about it. But finally, then they get in and work with them and help them perform to their highest potential. And if you can do those things, you care about people, you get them organized around their strengths, you align them around your purpose and values, you challenge them to do their best, and you help them, you'll be a great leader.
Thank you, Bill, for the insightful takeaways. It was great chatting with you.
Thank you for having me. It's been a privilege to be with you.
It's time for a quick break. We'll be back shortly. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching Leaders of Tomorrow Season 10. Now, as we step into 2023, it becomes imperative to decode the job landscape and the significance of professional networking. My second chat tonight is with Karthik Manivannan, COO Communities at Apna, a professional networking platform that became a unicorn in September last year. Karthik joins us live from his office in Bengaluru. Listen in. Hi Karthik, pleasure to have you on the show.
Hey Ritwika, thanks for having us over as well. Looking forward to our chat.
So, let's kickstart this by talking about the current employment landscape. As we step into 2023, tell us, how's the industry looking like in your opinion? The opportunities, the challenges, what can you tell us?
Yeah, sure Ritwika. I think let's look at it in two parts, right? One is basically where we are at today. So if you look at the quarter that ended last September, we are seeing a lot of business activity and it's pretty strong in terms of hiring. And we are seeing a lot of demand in terms of particularly sales roles. Also gig economy is booming as well. Where we are currently today, if you think about the festive season that's upon us, we see strong demand in a couple of areas, right? One is just in-person shopping that's picked up. So we see a lot of in-store and hospitality roles picking up. We also see a lot of e-commerce festive season kicking in and a lot of forward deployment of last mile delivery folks. So those are the two places where we are seeing inherent demand today. But your question on how we're thinking about 2023, I think there's a bunch of global/macroeconomic headwinds that we are seeing, but we still think that 2023 that for India is quite strong and we are pretty bullish about it. And I think three specific areas that we think we are at least bullish about. Number one is SME and MSME hiring. We think there is a lot of inherent demand there for very specific roles. And I think as marketplaces, we can bridge that gap for them. I think the second, with respect to gig economy, and I think with our aspirations of a 5 trillion economy, I think that is going to be a huge boost for us. And we continue to build towards how can we service this gig economy demand for us. And I think the third, as all of the new age companies kind of grow, we see a lot of demand for support services and enablers for that, which say, for example, is sales personnel or customer experience. So those are the three places where we do see demand. So net, while there are global headwinds, we are still bullish and strong about our outlook for 2023.
Right. So, since its launch in 2019, Apna has grown into one of India's largest jobs and professional networking platforms. Tell us, what was the initial idea behind Apna? And if you could also touch upon its growth journey to become a unicorn.
Perfect. So before I go into the details, I think what is important for all of us to understand is what is Apna's vision, right? And why did we do and what are we doing here? So vision for us is fairly straightforward, right? We want to enable users and connect them with opportunities. What that means for us is there are about 250 million Indians in this rising workforce which we cater to. So we are in the opportunity of providing them jobs, networking opportunities and skilling opportunities, right? So that's the vision behind which we all started. And I think what has become super interesting and powerful for us is all of our employees really connect to this, and all of the growth that you've seen so far and we talk about is thanks to our employees who kind of bring the passion and the energy to solve this problem. And we all feel we are solving a problem larger than ourselves, right? I think that's a lot of testament to where we are today. And I think the second part is also the ecosystem and the investors who've trusted us to kind of solve this problem for the ecosystem. I think those are the 2-3 things that have come out well for us. And I think we need to be grateful, and we are grateful to the opportunity that's been given for us. I think if you look at how we've grown and the unicorn status in itself, I think it's largely a milestone that we feel really excited and happy about. But we consider that more of say, for example, a signal or a vote of confidence that the ecosystem has in us to say that, hey, these guys are onto something and they are solving it the right way. And we kind of are taking it as a booster shot for us to continue to build something, because I think we are still in day zero of our journey. There is still 250 million users in India and 2 billion in the world for us to kind of take this value back and make their lives better, professionally speaking. So super excited and a lot to build for us, and we're looking forward to the journey as well.
Sure. So Karthik, tell us, what is the USP of Apna, as in how is it different from other platforms like say a LinkedIn or a job portal like Naukri.com?
Excellent question, Ritwika. I think first of all, I don't see ourselves as a jobs marketplace, right? What we want to be and what Apna is actually a one-stop shop or a one-stop destination for all your professional requirements for the rising workforce. What I mean by that, and what we typically see in Apna, is people come here looking for jobs, but do stay back for communities or the professional networking platform. What I mean by that is, say for example, all of us, all professionals require a network that we rely on professionally for either of 3 or 4 reasons, right? One is, hey, what job should I go look out for, right? If I know where I'm looking for, hey, how do I handle these interviews? Is this the right opportunity for me? Who's going to guide me through this process, etc.? Which is, I think, stage 1 of just finding out what the right opportunity is for you. But I think the second, also the most important part is, hey, once I'm in the job, what should I know to become a better professional? Like, say, for example, I'm a back office agent or I'm a telecalling agent. How do I handle my customers well? What are the tips and tricks? All the way, even if you think about a delivery executive, right? Some of the questions we've asked is, hey, how do I maximize my variable pay overall, right? So the second bucket along, hey, how do I be a great professional in the job that I'm doing, right? And the third use case, as you think about it, all of us do think about, hey, how do I get better as a professional, right? Should I grow along the sales journey and become a sales head? Or, hey, should I move along and find alternate tracks, right? So a back office agent wants to become a customer service excellence executive. How do I kind of figure that out? And all of this is not going to come through a jobs marketplace pure play, right? It's going to come from the network. So Apna's USP is, hey, how do I get peer-to-peer discussions and interactions going so that users get maximum value out of it, right? And that's where we think our USP is overall.
You know, a large part of your role at Apna, Karthik, also focuses on building community engagement. So let's try and understand this a little better. Tell us, what is the role of community engagement and professional networking in today's day and age? And what does it especially mean for smaller and medium-sized businesses?
Great. So I think, professional networking is not very different for a white-collar worker or anybody else, right? Like, at the fundamentals of it, what a network allows you to do is the 3-4 things that we talked about, right? How do I find the right opportunities? How do I be better at my job? And what is next in my career to find out? So those are the 3 basic things, right? But to your question, let me split this into 2 parts, right? How can a network help you find what we call as the formal jobs, right? What get listed out there? So typically in the rising workforce, even in the offline behavior today, is jobs are fulfilled by a network, right? I talk to a person in my community, they are a delivery agent. So that's the world that opens up to you, right? But unfortunately, the network size is about 5 to 10 people. So the opportunities that open up for you is only that much, right? So what we want to do is basically say, hey, you have a 5-member network. Can I make that 100, 200, 300 by connecting you with like-minded professionals or aspirational professionals, right? And what that allows you to do is now the breadth of opportunities you have and how you can become a better professional kind of increases. Quite interestingly, on our platform, a carpenter and a painter met each other and they were like, hey, if there is a carpentry work in your client, can you pull me in? And vice versa. So what they've now figured out is a go-to-market opportunity for them, and they just expanded the amount of revenue they can bring in, right? So that's the 2 parts of what I call as formal or informal economy. But your question around SME, and this is kind of linked, right? So if you think about Indian economy overall, a large part of it is still non-formal jobs, right? What I mean by that is, say for example, there's a 3-story department store in Andheri West or a Kormangla, right? There is always requirement for a teller, a biller, a stockist, a packer, etc. And none of this get listed in a jobs marketplace, right? And typically what happens is it goes through referrals. So what we are trying to do is community is the only way, or professional networking is the only way we think this non-formal economy jobs will ever get democratized. So in our larger vision of democratizing job opportunities in India, we think peer-to-peer community professional networking and sharing these jobs is the way to go to kind of capture these opportunities for users. So long and short, that's why we think professional networking is important.
Finally, tell us, what advice would you have for independent entrepreneurs, and young startups in terms of how they can build a strong network base? What is the starting point? How should they proceed? And really, how can community engagement transform the work culture?
See, I think from an SMB, MSME perspective, there are two use cases that I can think of which they can leverage Apna well for, right? One is their hiring needs. What we would urge for all SMBs to do is come look at our platform, kind of list the jobs first of all. Second, I think there is a large community of users where you have very specific needs. Like say, for example, are you looking for a particular carpenter, an electrician, etc. There are communities and groups where a large set of users kind of come and interact with us. So I think that would be the 2-3 ways I would say an SMB owner or a manager should leverage Apna better.
Well, thank you, Karthik, for your time. It was good talking to you.
Thanks, Ritwika, for having us over.
And with that, it's a wrap on this episode of Leaders of Tomorrow Season 10. Thank you for watching and have a good night.